Just like a real housewife of Beverly Hills, the Volkswagen Tiguan Allspace has had a midlife facelift. Yes, Volkswagen's 7-seat SUV has had a number of changes to bring it in line with its 5-seat sibling, including revised exterior styling, updated safety and tech, and new driver assistance features. There are 3 variants and 4 drivelines, and if you want to know more about those, you can head to my full launch review at Drive.com.au. Plus, remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more new car content. But in the meantime, let's find out if this car, bigger than a Tiguan, smaller than a Touareg, is the VW for you. The Tiguan Allspace's new look includes Golf-inspired headlights, a revised lower bumper design, and full-width LED light bar. The facelifted model range kicks off from around $45,000 before on-road costs for the base spec Life, and tops out above $60,000 for the flagship R-Line with either diesel or petrol power. Previously, the R-Line was an optional package, but VW has made it a standalone model grade due to demand from customers. So I'm in the cabin of the R-Line, so the top spec grade in the Allspace range, and that tends to be the volume seller because Volkswagen shoppers like the best of the best. Can we blame them? No, we can't. So as expected, this is a fairly well-appointed cabin. You've got your leather seats, your leather-appointed steering wheel as well. For the first time on the Allspace, there's the option of ventilated seats. That's standard on the R-Line and an optional extra on the lower grades. They've updated the controls for the climate control, so it's actually a touch screen, but there's a little bit of haptic feedback there, so it's nice and tactile. And hot tip, if you hit the cold side of things, it'll go straight to the coldest temperature. If you hit the hot side of things, it'll go to the hottest temperature. But if you hit right in the middle and hold, it'll take it to a balmy 22 degrees, which we all know is the perfect temperature. Because this is the Allspace, you're going to need to have all the space, so there's plenty of clever storage options all around this cabin. The door bins down here are positively huge, and then I love these little drop down spots for storing your knickknacks, sunglasses, everything hidden away. In the base spec, there's actually an extra bin here in the dash, but that's replaced by a speaker on the higher grades. And you've also got a really handy glove box with cooling function as well for storing all your chocky bars and drinks in summer. This is a large infotainment screen on the higher grades. On the base spec, it's an 8-inch unit, but it looks really premium, it's really high def, and the driver display is similarly excellent. It's a little bit racier on the R-Line as well. Otherwise, you've got everything you would really need in the cabin here. There's a wireless phone charger across all the grades, which is absolutely handy. Some cup holders here as well. And yeah, it's as promised, all the space. The Volkswagen Tiguan Allspace receives a 5-star safety rating from ANCAP and was last tested in 2016. Volkswagen's decision to temporarily remove several safety features, including blind spot monitoring and proactive occupant protection due to semiconductor supply shortages, has not affected this rating. The Tiguan Allspace still receives a large number of safety technologies as standard from the base grade, including autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian monitoring, lane departure warning, and front and rear parking sensors. In the back seat, the first thing I noticed here is that I've got heaps of headroom actually. So I'm quite tall, I'm about 178 centimeters tall, and I feel like I have heaps of clearance. It just makes it feel really spacious and light in here, even without a sunroof. So that's really appreciated. I've got central air vents in the middle here. I've got controls for seat heating, so you don't miss out on that if you're a rear seat occupant. I particularly appreciate these smaller pockets on the back of the seat as well. So if you've got car keys or a wallet and you're a rear seat passenger, you have somewhere to put those. That's really natural. Again, huge door bins in the back here. And one of the best things about the Allspace is the convertibility of the seats. So this rear bench folds 40, 20, 40. And that just means that you can fold each segment down individually. So if you have a child seat fixed in here, you can still get access to the boot, which is really, really handy. Well, I feel like a little kid again. So to get into the back seat here, you just use a lever on the middle row to fold it forward and slide it forward. And it's fairly easy to get in. You get plenty of clearance. But when you're back here, clearance is not the word I'd use. I certainly don't have a lot of headroom. My head's grazing the roof, and obviously, as you can see, my knees are right up. It feels like they're at my chin, but it's certainly a good solution for short trips if you're taking adults in the back row, and I'm sure kids would love it back here. Worth noting, there aren't any air vents back here, so you've got to rely on the airflow from the front. There's some cup holders here as well for their little drinks, Slurpees and the like, and it's really handy to know that the curtain airbags extend all the way back here for added peace of mind. At the rear here, this new Tiguan script is new and lends a really modern feel, plus it helps you to know which kind of car you're driving in case you were confused about that. I'll open up the boot. This has an electric tailgate, but it's worth noting for those planning on buying this car that because of stock shortages or supply shortages, Volkswagen has had to make that an optional extra across the range, whereas it was going to be standard on some variants. So just keep that in mind if that's something you really want. Now here we've got this kind of raised flooring, and underneath that is actually storage for your cargo blind, which is really great because if you're using the third row, obviously you don't want that cargo blind obscuring the headspace there, and there's a temporary spare under the floor. So there's a spot for everything in this car. Obviously we've got the third row in play, and there's still a fair amount of room. That's around 230 litres to play with. So it's 700 litres with this third row folded flat, but you've still got enough room for maybe a set of golf clubs. I don't have one on me, unfortunately, but we'll find out in later reviews. I do feel the size of this car at speed. It does feel a little bit wobbly going into corners, and the lighter steering combined with that top heavy sensation can be a little bit disconcerting and feel slightly unwieldy, but it's not a huge deal breaker for me. It's just something worth noting is that, you know, for a car that's a little bit lower to the ground and a bit racier, you can maybe handle bends a bit better than in this, whereas you might not feel as confident, although that all-wheel drive system is obviously fantastic, although I haven't really had to test it out in this beautiful Sydney weather, so there's not been many traction issues without any wet streets to contend with like there are in Melbourne. But again, that's something that's really good to have there, and it's across the range except for on that base spec 110 TSI. Now, I drove the 110 TSI as well today, and I can comfortably say that whilst it didn't have a huge power reserve at hand, it never really felt underpowered unless I was going up hills for prolonged distances. So in this car, the 162 TSI, that's not an issue at all. It maintains its power delivery really, really well. And one of the things I've noticed is it's not as punchy in its delivery of power. It doesn't feel particularly sporty. It's more steady-handed and consistent, which I think is what you need for, you know, traveling longer distances and when you've got a really big full boot. Now, Volkswagen stipulates a minimum of 95 unleaded on its cars, and I will say that in the cars I've driven, fuel economy has been surprisingly low for a larger SUV. I think in the 162 TSI I was averaging just over 8 litres per 100 kilometres, but in the diesel I was getting as low as 6 litres per 100 kilometres, and that was in really stop-start city traffic driving. So I believe you could get it as low as sort of 4 litres per 100 kilometres if you were doing long freeway stints. So that's a really great economical option for people who are maybe driving to and from the city and the country really regularly and who are towing as well. So the diesel is a great to have option. Probably won't be the volume seller, but again, it's nice to have the option for those who need it. The ride comfort across the range is generally composed over most road surfaces, even erring on the side of feeling wafty. However, I found that when riding in the R-Line, potholes and harder road edges resulted in reverberation in the cabin and a loud clunking noise, possibly as a result of the larger standard fit 20-inch alloy wheels. On the flip side, the R-Line gets progressive steering as standard, meaning that lighter steering feel is firmed up and becomes more responsive, requiring less input for maximum response. The 162 TSI engine pairs beautifully with the 7-speed dual-clutch automatic, and power delivery is smooth and measured but still efficient and immediate. Visibility in this car is great. I actually really like the ride position, so I feel like I'm quite elevated. I love the electric seat adjustment. I did struggle in the base spec to get a really nice seating position because of the manual adjustment, but with the electric adjustment I feel like I'm in the sweet spot. This seat, these leather seats are really supportive and firm. The fabric seats were a little squishier and soft, which wasn't really to my taste, but the leather seats are super comfortable, and as I said, with all that adjustment available to you, you can really find your perfect position, which is handy. One thing to note is that because of the global semiconductor shortage plaguing the automotive industry right now, Volkswagen has been pretty upfront about the fact that the Tiguan Allspace, this facelifted version, won't receive a rear cross traffic alert and blind spot warning. So those are two fairly crucial pieces of safety tech, and I know I've come to rely on them. So if those are deal breakers for you, keep that in mind. Another thing that's new to the Tiguan Allspace range is Volkswagen's travel assist system, and essentially what that is active cruise combined with lane centering. So the car will keep you centered in your lane. It will even sense when there aren't road markings where the edge of the lane is, and it will just make sure you're smack bang in the middle. It will also slow to a stop based on the car in front and then pick back up again. So it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. They call it level 2 semi-autonomous. Of course, the problem with that is do not assume that that means you can clock off. It's only an assistance system. It does not do the driving for you. So you very much have to stay focused and keep your hands on the wheel. All Volkswagen cars receive a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty as standard. You can purchase a prepaid servicing plan offering either 3 years of coverage for $1,650 or 5 years of coverage for $2,950. It's worth noting that the Tiguan Allspace competes in a crowded market populated by both premium and mass market rivals. Some of those rivals offer lower price points, hybrid power, and more cabin space. So the Tiguan's success rests on the premium packaging of its cabin and the relatively polished behind-the-wheel feel. It may not be the sportiest or sexiest car in the Volkswagen model range, but there's certainly a Tiguan Allspace for everyone. You've got your entry-level, less powerful models for around town driving with a good level of standard equipment and a reasonable entry price. You've got your workhorse diesel with really great fuel economy, and then you've got what I presume will continue to be the popular kit of the range, the R-Line with 162 TSI driveline, which has equipment, power, it has it all. So regardless though of what you choose, I can promise you one thing. As advertised, you will get all the space.